Hello and welcome to the shop. This past weekend I went to Turner's Club and our demonstrator showed us how to make wands. Now I really enjoyed his technique. I thought he did a great job, but it reminded me of the way I like to make wands, and I haven't made any for a long time, and I had just a couple of minutes. I've been very busy lately, that's why you haven't seen a lot of video activity from me, but I went out into my shop and I made a wand. It's got a nice walnut handle, and it's got a maple. I'm not sure what the front half of a wand is called. Let's call it the shaft. And I really like how it turned out. So let me show you how I went about making this. I like to make my handles first. And what I'm going to do is start by taking a 1/4 inch bit, and I'm going to drill probably a 1/2 to a 3/4 of an inch into the end of the handle. And this will make a nice little pocket, and later when I create the front part of the wand, I'll put a 1/4 inch tenon on the end of that wand, and I'll be able to glue the two together very nicely. I just kind of use my thumb to sort of mark how deep the bit went into the handle, and that looks pretty good. We're somewhere between a 1/2 and 3/4. I put a 60-degree live center in my tailstock, and I've inserted that into the 1/4 inch hole on the end of the blank. What I'm going to do now is just get this trued up. With the blank trued up, it's time now to start shaping our handle. I've decided to switch off to a detail gouge. I'm having quite a bit of trouble with my skew. I believe it has something to do with my sharpening job. I tried to, let me show it to you. I tried to round the skew a little bit, and because of that, I think I may have made a mistake. I think I need to go ahead and flatten it back off because it was catching like crazy. So we're going to move over to the detail gouge. When I turned this wand handle, I tried to put these beads down at the end of it and really kind of messed them up. And what happened is I took the wood down a little too thin, and while I was sanding, I was putting a little pressure on the blank and literally broke it off of the main blank. So what I'm going to do is I've got plenty of meat here, and I do have my 1/4 inch hole here. I'm going to go ahead and turn this back a little bit and put a 1/4 inch tenon on here, and I'll just jam this on here. That'll let me go ahead and finish sanding and hopefully use my tool and just turn the end off of this. For this project, I decided to use a little Triple E Ultra Shine to polish up the blank and some Shello Wax to finish it. I'm going to go ahead and get this little nub turned off, sand and clean up the end of this, and then we'll move on to the front half of the wand. Not too bad, a little bit of cleanup work, and looks like we have a handle. For the front half of my wand, I've chucked up a nice little piece of maple. I'm going to start by just truing it up. With my blank trued up, I'm ready to start taking it down to final size. Once again, I'm going to call on my detail gouge, and we're just going to take little sections down at a time. We'll go ahead and sand and finish them as we go because we need to really watch the stability of this piece of wood, because since it's such a long piece of wood, it might tend to flex when we take it down to a small diameter. Now that I've got this part of the wand to the diameter that I want, I'm going to go ahead and sand it and get it finished, because you don't want to keep working out here. There's way too much flex in the wood because there's just not enough meat to give you any stability. So once this is finished, I can move my tool rest back and I can work on this section and get it down to this diameter, and then finally we'll turn our tenon down here so that this can be glued into the handle of our wand. I sanded the end of my wand down to 400 grit, and then I use the Triple E Ultra Shine and the Shello Wax to finish it off. Now I'm ready to move back and do the next section. You may have noticed when I was turning this end down here that I kept my hand behind the blank. I'm going to continue to do that more so up on this end of the blank, because the farther away I get from the tailstock, the more flex I'm going to get. So we really need to provide as much support as we can to this blank. I'm ready now for a little sanding and some finishing. I don't know if you can see it in the video, but right there's some sort of little ripple marks. The blank would flex on me as I was turning it, even with holding it with my hand, but those are not an issue. They're so light, they'll sand right out with the 100 grit sandpaper, so they'll disappear. I'm going to go ahead and get this sanded, finished up to here, then we'll turn our back end and our tenon and get this attached to the handle. I brought my wand handle back over to the lathe, and after drilling the hole in the end of it, I flattened with my tool the front end of the handle. And when I hold this box wrench up to it, it looks like I've got about a 7/16 of an inch flat spot there, which is perfect because I've got this 7/16 inch box wrench that I had sharpened to be a tenon tool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn a little bit of this meat away, and then I'll turn a 7/16 inch tenon in this end of the wand, which should mate perfectly to this. Behind that little 7/16 inch tenon, I'll come in and turn a 1/4 inch tenon that I can glue inside of the wand handle. After I cut my tenon, my 1/4 inch tenon back here to glue into the handle, I went ahead and sort of undercut this part right here. All that's left is for me to sand this up, get some finish on here, then we can part it off and put our wand together. I'm going to attempt to come down here and use my detail gouge and cut this little nub off so that I can hopefully sand this end while it's on the lathe. I don't know how bad it'll whip once I get it cut off. It's not too bad. I think I can sand that up. Once I take it to low speed, it's not going to be whipping that bad. So I'm going to get that little tip sanded up and finished. I've got the front half of the wand finished. I'm just going to use a little flush cut saw and cut this off at the back of the tenon here. I've got both halves of my wand here, and I really like how it goes together. I think it looks really nice. I like the contrast between the walnut handle and the maple front of the wand. I'm going to go ahead and use just a little bit of medium CA glue and just get just a little bit in there. There it comes. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Wands are a great way to practice technique. If you want to turn finials, this is a great way to get used to using a very light touch with your tool. One last thing about wands is I used to make fatter wands, and I had someone tell me one time a wand is an extension of your finger. When you point that wand, it's like pointing your finger. So you want your wand to be slender. And since I started making thinner wands, they've been way more popular. I'd like to thank you for joining me in the shop today. I want you to know that you are always welcome in my shop. Come back and see me again real soon. Have a great evening, everybody.